Sabotage, this is Jeff. Once again, this is a solo effort. David is not here at the moment. He shall return in the future. We are playing Nioh. I guess I'm playing Nioh. Well, I played Nioh. This is a very hard boss. It took a very long time in order to get the no damage run on it. This is the Ogress. A lot of the attacks of the Ogress can actually be avoided by standing very close to it, which is nice because this is a good sort of attacking flow chart. This is a grab attack. I don't have footage of that particular one, but that's all right. We'll also be using a spear, like we did in the last one. 'Cause why not? Although I do like dual swords. Ground stab is one of the attacks that you actually have to watch out for. It is not safe to stand right next to the Ogress the entire time because of this. Also, it can do a second attack when it pulls its claws out. The other attack, other than the ground stab, the jump is really the hardest thing to avoid, especially if you're trying to do no damage, because the camera, it's a rectangular boss arena, but the camera, when it gets up next to the edges, even though it seems like you would be able to still see things, it just starts spinning around wildly, especially if you're locked on, which, you know, recommend you do, typically speaking. If you unlock doing 2 forward rolls or a dodge and then a roll forward will help. The reason that 2 forward dodges doesn't work when you're locked on is because often you will dodge in the correct direction first, which would be forward from where you're jumping, and then second dodge will actually just go towards it again and you'll get crushed. It sucks. These swipes, which are sort of medium range attacks, can also be avoided by standing very close. Much like most of the other bosses, we're going to be running the key down and then doing some fancier combos immediately after. There is a few more interesting things that can happen in the second phase, like this right here, Freak Out. As you can see, you just stand right in front of her, like as close as you can get directly in front of her face, basically, and all of those attacks will miss you. Now, because the Freak Out moves her around a little bit, you do have to reposition slightly, but you do not have to dodge. In fact, dodging will get you out of your safe spot, and you don't have to block either because they'll all just go right over your head. Another one of the special abilities here is the Flame Breath. If you get close, you can dodge through it or just stand next to it. I prefer just staying at a distance for this. You can also see that there are the flowers on the ground. Those will eventually explode into yokai realm puddles. And like most of the bosses in Nioh, it's recommended to get rid of those as fast as possible. Is William just hanging out? This boss was a lot easier once I found out that you can safely just stand in front for the Freak Out, which is great. So in that case, the dodge was to get into position, because there is a wide area around and front onto the sides that Freak Out can actually hit. So more silly fire breath. I might have lost, let's say, to Hubris one time. Well, this is not the only bosses that happen, where it's like, oh, you only have 1 pixel of health left, I will shoot you. And then it didn't quite finish off the boss. It does end in an embarrassing sound. Also, having played this boss so frequently, I was ready to end it. So why not use Living Weapon to end it? Living Weapon, of course, any damage you take in Living Weapon goes to your Living Weapon bar itself. Which means that you do not take the damage. It does not count as damage either, so you still get Crusher achievements. Your actual health does not decrease. Or I guess to be more specifically, your health does not decrease from an attack by the boss, because like poison, environment poison, as we saw in the previous video, does not affect your Crusher rating either. So glad that one's over. That took a long time. Of course, I'm playing without armor. I'm just putting on a few different things in order to get some bonuses. Usually I do War of the West stuff, but it's whatever I need to in order to look cool, because fashion is very important. but also have the lowest possible agility rating. It doesn't matter too much just because the way I'm playing this particular boss guide, trying to do no damage runs, like, it does not matter at all what armor is there, so defense is not something that's that I even have to think about. But this boss does a lot of damage. I think a lot more than the previous ones. It's kind of a spike in difficulty, or at least it was for me. It also doesn't help that it has a lot of HP. At least, you know, compared to previous bosses, which go down a little bit easier. That might be a function of just sort of like weapon strength, but that can't just be it. It seemed like maybe too much health. Minor complaint. Still doable though. You just have to remember the few basics. Stay up close, except for the ground stab and the jump. So dodging left out of ground stab, reduce the ki, and also a single forward roll or single forward dodge when trying to avoid the jump, the actual jump attack. If you're stuck in a corner, good luck, I guess, is all I can say, because plenty of my own efforts were wasted by the camera deciding to take wonderful scenic views of William's character model rather than showing me the gigantic Ogress that was Goomba stomping me into oblivion for like the 500th time. There's a lot of salt. It's a very salty, humid environment. That particular mountain pass that the Ogress is in. I think lore-wise it's supposed to be, was it Nobunaga's wife's mom? I don't remember. I think it was some lady that was, maybe it was one of the retainers of Nobunaga. Son died. Very sad. Turns into a crazy monster thing. You can actually get the Ogress mask as a rare drop from beating the boss. That's true of some other bosses too, like the Hino Inma. I don't think I ever got one. Did I get one? I think it has something to do with fire damage improvements. Or maybe with the fire masks, whose name I don't remember. I do not remember all the Japanese names, but the fire mask that you can get, which has a great animation where you kind of hop and then do basically the exact same fire breath attack that the Ogress uses. Not surprisingly, it's a little bit closer range. It's not quite as far-reaching fiery death laser as the boss's version, but you know, what are you gonna do? So that's it for this video. If you liked listening to, well, normally there would be another person here, but they'll be back eventually. If you want to support us, you can do that on Patreon, where you can give monthly, and the links are on the screen. The next episode, and this boss guide will be, let me take a gander at my list. Yes, we'll be looking at another, actually, is this the first? Let me look at my notes. Oh, Munishige was the, yes, Munishige was actually the first humanoid boss that we had to fight. This will be the second humanoid boss fight next. We have to fight a ninja. Humanoid boss fights are very different from the large yokai boss fights like this one. Yokai boss fights are a little bit more Dark Souls style, which generally speaking I prefer. The human fights, where it's dudes that are your same size and have a lot of the same abilities that you have, are interesting, and it's one of the reasons that Nioh itself has, or at least I think they're one of the reasons that it has so many bosses relative to other games of the genre, other Dark Souls-like games. Well, other than being from Team Ninja, which is known for, you know, bosses and difficulty, is that there is a certain type of boss, which is basically an NPC boss. In Dark Souls terms, it would be like a Red Phantom. Except, unlike Dark Souls, this is much improved because it's not just a red version of a player with a weapon that does more damage than it should and 7 to 8 times the health of a regular player. it's a little bit more interesting fights. There's some pretty good one-on-one, just kind of fights you can do. We saw the Munashige fight earlier. That one was pretty fun, and you can do it as a side mission as many times as you want to. This next one with Okatsu is going to be embarrassingly short, because all of the human bosses suffer the same effects that you do with regards to running out of ki, stamina. And they're also susceptible to crushing attacks and knockdown. Because they are susceptible to knockdown, means they're also susceptible to parries. All you have to do is learn a few parry timings, much like with Munashige. We're going to be doing that next time. I'm going to take on a ninja. It'll be good times. Hopefully I'll expound a little bit more detail than just hit the parry button at the right time, but this is a good strategy. This is about the Ogress, though. Ogress is hard. I don't know if she has a particular weakness. I know she does. It's mentioned in the memory fragments or whatever. You can go into the menus and look up the bosses you've already defeated. It gives you a little bit of lore about the actual Japanese mythology. You can look at the models and the animations and all that fun stuff, and it should actually give you a list of how many times you've killed them, how many times it's killed you, and also a weakness, elemental weakness. I don't think elemental weaknesses are actually. It's been so long; it might have changed since I played the game, but then also they might have refined it since the DLC has been coming out. I should probably play those. I wonder if I'll do boss guides for that. It'll probably be a Dark Souls situation. I'll probably be satisfied with just getting to the end of the base content. There's a lot of encounters. I think there's about 23 what I would consider bosses, which in this case, like in a Dark Souls game, I would consider encounters that have a fancy health bar at the bottom of the screen. But I digress. That is all for today. Hopefully I talked long enough that I'd be able to show some of the more interesting deaths that I came across. I guess I could just edit those in anyways as the video goes along. But maybe I will. We'll see what happens when I get this into Premiere. Until then, thanks for listening to the podcast portion. We'll see you next time for another Nioh boss guide.